We're talking Philly sports.
The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
And New York sports.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
And the unique history and relationship between the two cities. With Mike Carr.
You're so money and you don't even know it.
And Adam Turkel.
I agree. Nobody's madder about than I am. They're going to say that, and I'm going to look at them and say, "Hi, you're right."
This is the Battle for I-95 podcast, starting now.
All right, welcome to the Battle for I-95 podcast. It is brought to you by Easy Moving and Storage. Moving is hard enough. Do it the easy way. Servicing Fairfield, Connecticut, removal in New York. And I am what's normally one half of your show, Adam the Turk Turkel. But right now, this will be a solo Turk vehicle for a while. You get a whole lot of Turk, a whole lot of opinions, and we'll see if any of the guys can jump in after. But if not, it's you and me, and we're going to talk some sports here. And we're going to start with the current subject of the MLB playoffs. When we left off last episode, the Mets had moved on. We're going to play the Phillies. The Yankees were about to eliminate, I believe, at the time, the Royals, about to move on to play their next opponent, which ended up being the Indians. Let's start with some Mets and Phillies, okay? And this is what ended up happening with the Phillies.
Oh, no! We suck again!
That's right. They sucked again, and they couldn't believe it.
What the fuck?
So, the Mets, who were the wild card team but did have the best record in baseball from June on, took on the division champion Phillies and promptly eliminated them, knocked them out of playoffs. Not a good series for the Phillies' big guns. They didn't play well. They didn't hit enough. And the Mets just, chugged forward. They beat the Brewers with the Pete Alonso home run when it looked like they were going to be eliminated. They can move on to the Philly series, and they take care of Philadelphia. And for the second time in 6 months, in a playoff scenario, a New York team took out a Philadelphia team.
What the fuck?
That's right. New York in control of the whole thing, baby, even if it is the JV team. On the other side, the Yankees eliminate the Royals. Nice and clean in 4 games, though they didn't look great doing it. And then the Yankees get to the Cleveland series. In the first 2 games in New York, the Yankees are a little sloppy, but got some timely hitting. Giancarlo Stanton, who was banged on all year by a lot of people, including me, just continues to show that he's a playoff player. And all he does in the playoffs is get big hits and hit home runs. And Giancarlo's been up to his old things again in this playoffs. And a big question had been, was Aaron Judge going to join the party at some part? Well, Aaron Judge has now joined the party. But the Yankees, after going up fairly decisively, 2-0, go back to Cleveland and have a nice game comeback. Down 3-1 in the 8th inning, Aaron Judge finally gets his New York Yankee moment in the postseason and hits a line drive opposite field, 2-run homer to tie the game at 3 apiece with 2 outs in the 8th inning. Next batter, Giancarlo Stanton, follows that up with another dinger of his own, back to back and belly to belly. And the Yankees take a 4-3 lead. They tack one more on at the top of the 9th. And boy, am I happy. I'm watching this game. I'm like, the Yankees, they're going to do their thing, and they're going to be up 3-0, ready to put this series away. Cleveland looks like they're not even, the home runs were disheartening. It was in Cleveland. You heard the whole stadium gasp. Everybody got quiet. I chuckled, and then it happened. Weaver, who has been great in the postseason, with 2 outs and 2 strikes, 1 strike away from a 3-0 lead, gives up the game-tying home run. Oh, my God.
What the fuck?
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And then to top it off, you know, you kind of know what's going to go down when that happens. When that happens, it's usually really hard to get off the mat and win the game. And sure enough, in the 10th inning, the Yankees bring in Clay Holmes. And I'm like, oh, my God. Here we go with Clay Holmes. And, you know, as if you can predict it, Clay Holmes gives up a 2-run homer, and the Yankees drop the game 7-5 that they led 5-3 with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the bottom of the 9th inning. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. The Yankees are still in control of the series 2-1. They'll have Luis Heel going in game 4, who has not pitched in what feels like 5.5 years, against another pitcher who has not pitched in 5.5 years and has a home ERA of over 6. So I'm expecting a little bit of a slugfest. Maybe not a slugfest. Heel's got great stuff, but he has tendency to get wild, lose the strike zone some. And if Luis Heel loses the strike zone, it creates traffic. I don't think there's going to be a very long hook, and there could be a lot of Yankee bullpen arms run out. One of the questions for this game going into tonight is the availability of Weaver and Holmes, and both got touched up last night. Both have been great in the playoffs. As much as I banged on Holmes for how he was at the end of the season when he was the closer before losing the closer job, as a 7th, 8th inning type of guy in the postseason, Clay Holmes has been really good. And they got him in the 10th, and they got to Weaver. First time anyone's gotten to Weaver, really. And, you know, what's their availability? Are the Yankees going to have those high leverage guys available? Obviously, Tommy Kahnle will be available. That's a big arm out of the bullpen. And you hope that Judge hitting the 2-run homer has now invited him to the party. It was his 2nd home run of the postseason. You know, Judge getting going is so important. Juan Soto's been hitting. Giancarlo's been hitting. Judge started the playoffs a little slowly, but maybe now the monkey's off his back a little bit, and Judge can move forward, and the Yankees should be able to score a bunch of runs tonight, and that's what I'm hoping and expecting. I would like the Yankees to put themselves in position to end this as quickly as possible. The Dodgers are up 3-1 on the Mets, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the Yankees going forward should go to the World Series. And after everything that's happened this year and the ups and the downs, and let me tell you something, the Yankees were a roller coaster ride this year. They were up and down all year. At times they looked like the best team in baseball, and then there was a long stretch where they looked like the worst team in baseball, and then there was a long stretch where they looked like a 500 team in baseball. And then right before the playoffs, they started playing better again, and they played well into the playoffs. And again, they haven't been perfect. Last night in that loss, along with giving up the game in the 9th and 10th inning, the Yankees cost themselves runs. Again, more base running blunders. Anthony Rizzo, I love the guy. He looks like he can't move out there at first base. I don't even know if he should be playing it. He came in as a defensive replacement, and it didn't go so great. You know, not the Rizzo we're used to seeing. Rizzo's usually a very good defender. I'm sure some of it is related to coming back from the injury. Some of it's related to his age. He's not a young guy anymore in baseball terms. He's a young guy compared to me, but he's not a young guy in baseball terms. So the Yankees with the 2-1 lead will play again tonight in Cleveland, and they will play Game 5 tomorrow. National League, we talked about the Mets taking out the Phillies. And the Mets have been one hell of a story. They really have been. I mean, I obviously, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm not a Met fan. They've had a really magical ride, and they just keep getting these. Every time you think they're dead, you know, like Frankenstein, they get up. Oh, and they start walking towards you, you know, and it's the monster that won't die. It's like Godzilla. You blow him apart, and he grows back from the little piece of him that's left. I don't think the Mets are growing back this time. I think the Dodgers are just a much better team. And while the Mets have had great chemistry, and they, you know, hats off to the manager. He has squeezed every bit of juice out of this group. from 0-5 to start the season to 11 games under 500, to figuring it out, getting contributions in their pitching that, nobody thought their staff was going to be any good. One of their big guns, Pete Alonso, has what's by all means a bad year. Francisco Lindor, Nimmo, those guys carried the Mets. That they had the oh my God thing, and they had the grimace thing, and all these weird Metsian things, but they all seem to work. And the mojo may be expired now. In game 1, the Dodgers slammed the Mets 9-0. And the game was, my first problem with the game is, why is Kodai Senga starting when he really hasn't pitched all year and you don't know what you're getting out of him? And I mean, you got to pitch your best pitcher there. You got to make sure you get your best pitcher in the series as many times as you can. And Minaya should have been the starter. But what do I know? I'm just some idiot doing a podcast. Kodai Senga basically loses the game from Jump Street. The Mets get pummeled. People think they're dead. Wow, the Dodgers are just much better. Not yet. Game 2. The Mets lay it on the Dodgers. Early 5-6-0 lead. End up winning the game going away 7-2. And it looks like we're going to have a series. The difference in that one game from every other game in the NLCS so far is the Mets actually hit. The Mets actually scored some runs, much like they did against Philadelphia, much like they did against the Brewers. Timely hitting. Game 3, the Mets get drubbed again. 8-0. Silence in the bats. The Dodgers are just, Mookie Betts is getting hot. Shohei Ohtani hitting bombs. And then last night, 10-2, Dodgers. And the Dodgers take a commanding 3-1 lead over the New York Metsies, the JV team. Now, look, if I was a Met fan, of course you want to win. Of course I'm going into tonight's game, Game 5, at Chase. Oh, my God, what a Freudian slip. At Citi Field, rooting for your team. Because the Mets have given you every reason all year long to believe in them. They have done nothing but raise up from the grave. Oh, like Frankenstein 1,000 times this year. So you gotta get behind them. Now, as an objective guy, which I am, as a Yankee fan, fuck the Mets. I think they're out of gas. I just think the Dodgers are a lot better. And I expect the Dodgers to close the series tonight. If the Mets, look, what you hope for as a Met fan is you hope for the pride of, we're not going to let them celebrate and we're not going to let them win in Citi Field. We're going to fly back to LA if they're going to try to do it there. And we're going to take it one game at a time, starting with tonight's game. And that's the way you got to think if you're the Mets. You can't win 3 games at once. You got to win one game at a time. Win tonight. Don't let them celebrate on your field and push it back to LA if you can. The Dodgers, I'm sure, want to tighten the noose because if they can eliminate the Mets tonight, they can hang out, chill, set up their pitching rotation for the World Series and await the Yankees or the Indians, but it's going to be the Yankees. And then we will have ourselves a classic Yankee-Dodger type of World Series if we get to that. And that could be a lot of fun. That could be a lot of fun. Now, as I look forward to the World Series, if you're a betting man, the Dodgers are going to be the favorites, no matter what happens. If somehow Cleveland miraculously pulls back in this series, and you don't know what's going to happen tonight. They win tonight, it's 2-2. It's now a best of 3, and that changes everything because I don't know what we're going to get out of Louis Seal. Is he going to walk 3 of the first 4 guys, or is he going to stabilize? But if you're the Yankees, you have to win tonight. You have to take the 3-1 lead just to make sure the Dodgers don't get a bunch more of setting their rotation up than you can, just to kind of be even keel. Because if I'm being honest, man for man, the Dodgers are the better team. The Dodgers are a little deeper, have a couple more stars in their lineup than the Yankees have, but the Yankees are the more powerful team. If the power bats, if Juan Soto, who hit 40 home runs this year, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, if Austin Wells can figure it out again, if Jazz Chisholm can figure it out again, Volpe's been hitting, it could be a hell of a series. As a Yankee fan, I'm going to be honest with all you guys out there. I don't want to play the Mets. For the same reason I did not want to play the Mets in 2000. Because to play the Mets is a no-win scenario for the New York Yankees. Now, you might be asking, Turk, what do you mean by a no-win scenario? Why is it a no-win scenario? It's pretty simple. It's a no-win scenario because if the Yankees beat the Mets in the World Series, they're supposed to. They won 94 games. They had the best record in the American League. They're the Yankees, the 27-time world champions, against the poor little brother Mets. They're supposed to. But if the Mets beat the Yankees, oh my God.
What the fuck?
I will never, ever live it down. As neither will any other Yankee fan live it down from any of their friends that are Met fans. Because you can never take it away from them. See, when the Yankees won in 2000, we were towards the end of the dynasty. They had won in 96, 98, 99. 2000 became the three-peat. So the Yankees were supposed to win. And all the Yankees on that team have said in interviews since then that was not a fun series because they knew they had to win. There was no way that they would ever live down losing that series to the Mets. And, as Jeter said, he expected the Mets to Met, But in this era, where things are different, and what I mean by things are different, the Mets have a man that owns the team that is one of the richest men in the world. He is the single richest owner in baseball. And whether I like it or not, or any other Yankee fan likes it or not, the Mets are going to be good consistently for a long time to come because I think that with the general manager they have, he's going to build it the right way. And Steve Cohen always has the money to throw at it to add the stars. I don't want to get into the offseason now because we're in the NL and ALCS. We're at the pinnacle of baseball season. And, that's what the focus at hand is. But the reality is in the offseason, Steve Cohen's going to go for Juan Soto. The Yankees are going to have to try to, somehow get within matching range and everything and hope that Soto, really had a good time this year and wants to stay a Yankee and with the history and Monument Park eventually and all that good stuff. Because the reality is Soto had his best year as a professional this year. And don't think that part of that is not that, Aaron Judge happens to hit behind him. That's a factor. But again, that's later talk for when we get past the World Series and we get past all this baseball jubilation that is this time of year. Other than baseball, you have football in stride. We'll get to football after. The NHL has started. And the New York Rangers are one of the favorites to go to the Stanley Cup, as they should be. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, where they were eliminated. And with the changes they've made and the guys they've retained, and having still one of the best goalies on the planet in Igor Shesterkin, you would hope that the Rangers are what they are supposed to be. I would be surprised if they are anything worse than the 2 seed. Listen, Carolina's still really good, and Tampa's really good, and it's a pretty loaded conference. But the Rangers should be good enough to make another deep playoff run, and you can only hope that they've added what they lacked last year. And what they lacked last year in the playoffs was, to be quite honest with you, physicality, which, some people will translate to toughness. They got pushed around. And when it comes to playoff time, you can't have the team that's going to get pushed around. Hockey, at its core, is a physical, tough sport. Playoff hockey, at its core, is the tough guy wins. So let's hope the New York Rangers have the tough guys to move forward. The New Jersey Devils should be very good. Now, obviously, I don't care about the Devils.
Here we go! Here we go!
That's right. Here we go. I don't care about the Devils, but I have to acknowledge what they are. They went and got a real goaltender. They were a good team last year, and they should be a better team this year. Part of that loaded Eastern Conference. And the Devils are considered to be one of the top 3 favorites to win the Eastern Conference this year. So, hockey season getting ready to go. I don't know much about the Philadelphia Flyers because I don't care. I'm not from Philadelphia. Mike's not here. So screw you, Mike. I'm not talking about the Flyers because I don't know much about the Flyers, nor do I care to know about the Flyers. The NBA is getting ready to start up. And oh boy, am I excited for the NBA to get going. The Knicks, obviously, last time we told you on the show, made a big trade. Traded Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a protected first-round pick from Detroit that they had gotten in a trade for Karl Anthony Towns. It's a move that's interesting. It's a go-for-it move. It's a move to match Philadelphia's Embiid and, ironically, Boston's Kristaps Porzingis. It's a move to give them that stretch big that opens up the middle for Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges, and to let Josh Hart run amok and get rebounds and do Josh Hart things. It's a bold move. And I'm very excited to see how the Knicks look this year. I would think the Knicks could win 57-plus games, maybe even get to 60. They're going to play tough every night. They're a Tom Thibodeau team. The last couple of years running, they're one of the better defensive teams in the league, if not the best defensive team in the league. At times, they have 2 of the best perimeter defenders in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. They have a center who's going to stretch the floor. They have a solid bench, Precious Achiuwa, Deuce, and the list goes on and on. So the Knicks should be in contention for the conference this year. They have the 3rd shortest odds to win the NBA title. That's what Vegas thinks. Only behind Boston and Oklahoma City, slightly ahead of Philadelphia. But I don't want to get ahead of us. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, as they say. We don't want to do that. No. What we want to do is we want to look at what it is. The early part of the Knicks' schedule is tough, so we're going to find out early while they're in that gelling process. What is the difference with the Knicks basically exchanging Julius Randle, who is a double-double machine, second-team All-NBA 2 of the last 3 years, for Karl Anthony Towns, who has the best three-point shooting percentage of anyone 7'1" or taller in the history of the NBA? Well, one of the differences I already stated, which is the obvious, with Towns being a stretch big, he's going to pull other bigs out. The shot blockers, the Porzingises, the Joel Embiids. They're going to have to go cover him on the perimeter because he's not going to sit in the middle. Julius Randle was a tenacious defender. The knock on Karl Anthony Towns over the course of his career in Minnesota has been that he's a little bit soft, that he doesn't play defense all the time. Now, granted, I'm not a T-Wolves fan. I've seen a good amount of Karl Anthony Towns on a national basis. Not so much on a consistent basis, though, here and there. I did watch the playoffs a lot, and I watched the playoffs last year, and Towns kind of looked all over the floor to me. You know, especially when they played Denver and he went against the Joker. Towns looked up to the task. I think that Towns coming back to Tom Thibodeau, being more mature now than he was when they were together in Minnesota, being more aware of the importance of defense, especially in the playoffs, being aware of the importance of the Knicks getting the top seed in the conference, I think Towns is going to have a fabulous year, health permitting. And that's always been one of the issues with two of the Knicks starting five. Health permitting. Will Karl Anthony Towns stay healthy all year? Will OG Anunoby stay healthy all year? OG has done nothing but get hurt all the time. You have to hope for hope. Because if the Knicks stay relatively healthy, what do I mean relatively? Towns plays 65 games, 70 games. OG plays 60, 65 games. Jalen is Jalen and plays 75 games. Hart is Hart and plays 90% of the games and 90% of the minutes, right? If all this comes together and all this perfect storm at Madison Square Garden comes swirling around, the Knicks should have a banner year. The Knicks should be competing for a championship. But again, Boston's the defending champs. You still have Jason Tatum. You still have Porzingis. You still have Brown. Philadelphia added Paul George, who, by the way, he's hurt already. Mike, your boy Paul George is hurt already. How is he hurt already? The season hasn't even started, man. I digress. I'm not the Philly fan. I'll be looking forward, hopefully this year, to going back to Wells Fargo Square Garden in Philadelphia, where us Knicks fans could take over and basically run the building, because their fans aren't quite like our fans. Just saying. Nothing personal, Philadelphia. I got nothing but love for you. But what happened in that building last year should never happen in a playoff series. That's the type of thing that happens when your team is, 10-64 at the end of the year, and the other team is a championship type playoff team coming into your building, and your fans sell all their tickets, and the other team infiltrates the building. I've seen that happen. Everybody's seen that happen. We've seen it happen in football. We've seen it happen in basketball. But what I'd never seen, ever, in a playoff series was a 50-50 crowd at an arena that's supposed to be a home court advantage. And the 50 from the road team was louder than the 50 from the home team. And that was obvious. So, basketball season approaches. The Knicks get ready. Hockey season approaches. Baseball season is closing. And we are in the midst of football season. And this is the pinnacle of the year in sports. This is the time of year where all the major team sports kind of converge and collide, and you get a little bit of everything. So this past Monday night, there was a Yankee playoff game, and there was also a Jets-Bills football game, which we'll talk about later. We have not spoken since the continuation of the Jets mess, which included the firing of the head coach, amongst other things. But this perfect storm of sports is giving me 2, even sometimes 3 TV type of nights. I can't miss a Jet-Bills football game or a Yankee playoff game. And soon there's going to be a chance of a Yankee World Series game the same night as a Knicks game, the same night of an NFL Jet game. Crazy. I've seen it happen a couple of times before. It's a fun time of year. And I look forward to this time of year every year as a sports fan, because this is when you get to soak it in, especially if your teams are good. So on the scale of my teams are good, the Yankees are in the ALCS. The Knicks were 1 game from the Eastern Conference Finals last year and have improved on paper by adding Karl Anthony Towns. The Jets are supposed to be real good this year and are a circus, but they're still in it. And if I just look from a New York perspective, the Mets in the NLCS. And now the Rangers, coming off an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, will look to take the run at Lord Stanley's Cup. So when you're at the pinnacle of this time of year and your teams are good, it's extra good. It's even better than you think it is. All right. So now let's get to the next subject. All right. So now it's time that we talk some NFL football. As we are now 6 weeks in the books, a couple of teams have had byes. We have some surprises, some not surprises. We'll start with probably the biggest surprise in the league, which is the Minnesota Vikings at 5-0. The Vikings have not only been good, but they have been over the top good. I'm going to bring it up real quick here. The Vikings this week will be playing. Where are they? The Vikings will be playing the Lions Sunday at 1 o'clock. The Vikings are a 1.5 point favorite in this game at home over the Lions, which tells me the bookmakers are saying they think the Lions are a better team. Pretty much a push in Minnesota. So to me this week, we're really going to find out if the surprising Vikings are what they look like. Now, of course, they beat my Jets. We'll talk about them in a minute. They've done nothing but, mow through people, but the Jets probably should have won that game against Minnesota. But nonetheless, you are what your record says, and Minnesota is 5-0. So that's one of the surprises. Something that's not surprising is Kansas City is 5-0. What is surprising is that they don't appear to be, so far, what they've been. They're probably the most underwhelming 5-0 team we've seen. They've been a little sloppy. Kelsey hasn't been a big factor. Mahomes has made mistakes yet. With enough defense, enough running, enough Patrick Mahomes, they've managed to go 5-0. Let's talk about the New York Jets for a minute. So since the last time we had our last episode, the New York Jets have fired Robert Saleh, as we know on the last show. And they've played a game since then, which was a loss to Buffalo on Monday night. But things did look a little different. A couple of things that look different is the Jets actually ran the ball better. They ran some screen passes. Now, Nate Hackett was also relieved of his offensive coordinator duties, and that paid off a little bit too. The thing that remained with the Jets was a bunch of penalties, 11 in total. They lead the league in penalties right now. And just generally sloppy play at times by the Jets. Rodgers had a really good game. At the end of the game, he threw a pick. Kind of threw Mike Williams under the bus after that, basically, saying he ran the wrong route. He was supposed to stay outside the numbers. A lot of people don't know what the red line meant. I heard a lot of talk about that. Oh, he's trying to get all technical, talk about the red line. No, it's actually a football term, guys. It means he was supposed to run up the outside of the numbers. And Williams came inside, and Rodgers threw the pick, and the Jets lose the game. Almost in direct response to that, the Jets traded for Davante Adams this week. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers' boy, Davante Adams, now joins the New York Jets, and he will play this week. A lot of times when you trade for a player, and something similar happened for Buffalo, they just traded for Amari Cooper from the Browns. A lot of times when you trade for a player, the most challenging thing is them getting to know the language. When it comes to a receiver, I guess in the very beginning, a quarterback can kind of spoon feed him his route. I'm sure there's similarities, this and that. But the advantage for the Jets with Davante Adams coming here is it's the language that he used in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. So while I'm sure there's some changes because all systems evolve and become a little different over the course of time, while there is a little bit of change, I'm sure that for 85-90% of it, Davante is going to be very familiar with the language and able to totally participate in the offense. As to where on the other side, Amari Cooper in Buffalo, he's got to be spoon-fed a little more. He doesn't have that relationship so far, yet with the quarterback, Josh Allen, like Davante obviously has with Rodgers from their time in Green Bay together. So the Jets make the big acquisition. My only question is, can Devontae block or stop the run? Because those have been the Jets' biggest problems. Aaron Rodgers has been getting beat up. There's no two ways around it. He gets hit a lot. And for a 41-year-old man, it's not what you want. And the Jets' revamped line hasn't been as good as we hoped. The old left Hall of Fame tackle looks old. Moses was out injured. The rookie played. He didn't look so good. Moses has been okay. The Jets overall have been poor at blitz pickup. Brees Hall finally got going a little bit this week, which was nice to see. We hadn't seen him get going all year, so maybe now with the coaching change, with Ulbrich taking over and the change with the offensive coordinator, things will be a little different. Offensively, they did look a little different. They did look a little better. Tough loss to Buffalo, tough loss to Minnesota back-to-back weeks. The Jets dropped to 2-4 with the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up this week. And Frank, are you listening to me, Frank? You're not winning this game. You might think you're winning this game, but Russell Wilson's starting. So I don't think you're winning this game. The Steelers are going to be a get-right game for the Jets. And I'm looking very forward to this game on Sunday night as the Jets go into Pittsburgh. Jets in Pittsburgh, the line currently is, Steelers plus 1.5 at home against the Jets, which means that Vegas is saying the Jets are a better team, Frank. And you listen to me, Frank? They're right. They're absolutely right. So I still feel the Jets are going to continue to get better now with the coaching changes and everything. I think that they're operating a little differently. The new head coach is a former linebacker, has that linebacker type of mentality. He's going to be into motivation. I would hope and think he's going to be a little more disciplinary than Saleh was. And he's going to make guys a little more accountable than Saleh was, because that will go a long way. Adding Devontae, without doubt, changes things. Because Devontae is now the number one that's going to call for the attention, which frees up Garrett Wilson a little bit and basically makes either Williams or Lazard a number 3 receiver, which makes the Jets receiving core as good as any, if not the best in the league. So I guess the hope is that with Devontae Adams coming in, that's going to open up Wilson, open things more. The guy is phenomenal. Yes, he's 31. He's an older receiver now. He's probably lost half a step, just like his buddy Aaron has lost half a step. But him at half a step less is probably better than most. He hasn't played in a couple of weeks due to his hamstring injury, which is suddenly better now. What a surprise. And he is expected to play Sunday night when the Jets visit the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Jets at 2-4 need this game. There's no two ways about it. They absolutely need this game. And when it comes to a Sunday night game, I don't always really trust the Jets. You know, why don't I trust the Jets? Because they always let me down. You know, these prime time games, I get my hopes up and they get their bubble busted. But I honestly think the Jets are going to go into Pittsburgh and win this game, especially with the Steelers being dumb enough to play Russell Wilson instead of sticking with the guy that's gotten the 4-2. And I know Fields has been inaccurate. He hasn't been great. His legs have been a big deal. Wilson doesn't have that. Wilson doesn't have the escapability. The Jets are going to come after him. Fields would have given another dimension. So I actually think that's a mistake on Pittsburgh's part. The Steelers at 4-2 coming in to make a quarterback change is a little drastic, in my opinion. It's not something I would do. It's not a direction I would want to go in. I've always been the type of coach that thinks if it ain't broke, don't fix it. 4-2 tells me it's not broke. The Steelers have won some games people didn't think they were going to win. But nonetheless, Mike Tomlin, he's the big man. He gets paid to make the decisions, and he is starting Russell Wilson this week. Now let's talk about my other partner and his Birds, who will be visiting East Rutherford on Sunday to take on the New York Giants. The Birds are a 3.5-point favorite. this tells me two things, okay? I actually think that's low. I think the Eagles are significantly better personnel-wise than the Giants. But I think their coach has lost his mind. I think he shaved his head this week, and he's yelling at fans in Philadelphia. And Nick Sirianni, listen to me, Nick. What are you doing, bro? What are you doing? I mean, are you trying to ruin your team? Is this what you want to do? Yeah, here we go. I mean, Nick, you have to, throttle it down a bit, brother. You have to be a little more of a solid leader than you're being. You can't try to be one of the guys because you're not one of the guys. You're the head coach. You're the guy in charge. You have to act like the guy in charge. So the Eagles, need this game, obviously, with the Commanders being 4-2, barely losing to Baltimore this week. The Commanders are obviously a good team, and they're sticking around. So the Eagles need to win this game against the Giants. The Giants are trying to salvage this season with the same record as the Stinky Jets, 2-4. Though almost everybody would swear the Jets are a better team. You are what your record says you are. And the Commanders, they're at home for one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL this week, the Carolina Panthers, which they're 9-point favorites, and justifiably so. And if they continue to play the way they've been playing with Jaden Daniels, the Eagles have to play a lot of catch-up. They have to keep pace with Washington and then beat Washington when they play them. So Washington and Philadelphia, and it's not Dallas. Dallas stinks. Blown out by Detroit this past week. They are not looking good. Who knows what's going to happen with head coach there with Mike McCarthy? If Jerry Jones is going to look to pull the trigger, I don't know. You see, it's not like a baseball manager. You can't just fire a coach midstream. Maybe you can do it like the Jets did it and promote someone from within, but you can't bring someone in. At least not from a strategic sense, because there's no time for them to put in whatever their specialty is, whether it's offensive systems or defensive systems. But if they want to change the culture quick, it's probably only one guy they could do that with. And that would be Bill Belichick. And who knows if he'd be willing to take that over midstream. But Dallas is running out of time to try to fix this problem. Dallas is not looking good. And if they don't change things quickly, one problem is they can't run the ball. Some of that's the line. Some of it's the fact that both the running backs absolutely stink. Dak is trying to do too much. The defense is injured, banged up, giving up points like it's going out of style. So I really don't know how you fix it for the Cowboys. The Cowboys, America's team, are looking more like the team from down under, like they don't know how to play football. So that's what's going on with the Eagles and their competition, their division. The Detroit Lions are kind of being what everybody thought they would be. The Bills are probably a little better than even I thought they were going to be with losing Stephon Diggs and everything. But now they get Amari Cooper. It's another big receiver in. And they've been pretty solid. Though, again, it's another game the Jets should have won. Should have won. Other games around the league this week. We have basically a battle for the cellar with the Patriots and the Jaguars. The Jaguars are 6-point favorites at home against New England. I don't know what you're going to get in that game. The New England's finally going to start the rookie, so Brissett's going to take a seat, and we're going to take a look at their high draft pick and see how he looks. And Jacksonville just can't get out of their own way. I thought Jacksonville was going to be much better this year. I thought Trevor Lawrence would take a bigger step his second year with Doug Peterson. It hasn't happened. The Jaguars are struggling. And this could be a get-right game for them because New England is one of the NFL's lesser teams this year, as we all know. And you know what we think about all these New England teams.
Fuck Boston.
That's right. Fuck Boston and everything in that area. So the Patriots will go down there and hopefully take a beat down. And that would make me happy. The Bills, who are now up on the Jets by 2 games, is The Bills are going to take on Tennessee. They're 9.5-point favorites at home. I would expect them to win that game and to probably win it handily. It's probably a good bet. Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things. I'm sure they'll get some burn for Cooper. The Bills have been able to run the ball. Their defense is okay. Tennessee's just not a very good team. That's all there is to it. Then you got the Texans and the Packers. It's a tough game. Packers are home. They're 3 points favorite, which basically says it's a push. They're getting 3 points for being at home. I don't know what to think about this game because I think Green Bay is better than I thought they were going to be, and I think Houston's a little better than I thought they were going to be. So this should be a tight game. I'd probably give Green Bay the home field advantage and take Green Bay and give the 3 points. That game is probably going to be in that neighborhood of a field goal type of game. Probably a game if I didn't have to touch, I wouldn't. Then you got the Seahawks at the Falcons. Again, two teams still breathing, fighting for things. Falcons are in the dome. Kirk Cousins doing his thing. Geno Smith coming in with the Seahawks, who've had a couple of good wins and a couple of bad losses. So it's hard to tell with Seattle. Another 3-point game. Another game I wouldn't touch if I didn't have to. I'll probably lean towards Kirk Cousins at home in this game and go with the home team in this one also. The Dolphins at the Colts. God knows how the Colts are only a 3-point favorite. Because let me tell you something. The Dolphins without a quarterback stink. That's all there is to it. Joe Flacco's played well in Indianapolis, and Miami hasn't been able to score points. Indianapolis is only getting 3 at home. I think that's actually not good. I think it should be higher. I think they should probably be like 5. So I would take the Colts at home and give the points. Raiders at Rams. Battle of the two former LA teams and the once again LA Rams. So the Raiders go in as 7-point underdogs. The Rams really need this game. If they're going to stay relevant for the rest of the season, this is a must-have for them. The Raiders look like they're spiraling out of control a little bit. They just traded Devontae Adams. I'm sure that, there's not a lot of happiness in that locker room right now. With the Rams at home, I would probably give the points and take the Rams at home. Chiefs 49ers. Rematch of the Super Bowl. 49ers are at home and they're a 1.5-point favorite. Man, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole. I will say that the Chiefs have not played great and are due for a loss. I will say that San Francisco has had its ups and downs and has given away 2 games they should have won and is the more desperate team. I'll probably take the home team in this one if I had to. But it's a 50-50 type of game. It really depends on who shows up and who doesn't. Niners are banged up a little bit. Still no Christian McCaffrey. Current running back is banged up. Got to see what you're going to get from their offense there. And the Chiefs still have Patrick Mahomes, who's the best player on the planet. So 50-50 game. I'll give the 49ers the nod because of desperation. Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baltimore is a 3.5-point favorite going into Tampa. This is a weird game because Tampa Bay's been very up and down. Tampa Bay 1 week looks great. 1 week they look like they stink. They go and beat a really good team and they go lose to a bad team. It's the way it's been. But Baker Mayfield has played really well. Obviously not Lamar Jackson well. And Jackson has King Henry on his side now. I will take the road team and take the Ravens and give the 3.5 with Lamar and King Henry going into Tampa Bay. The other LA team, the Chargers, will go to the Valley of the Sun, where they will see the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. The Chargers are a 2-point favorite going in on the road into Arizona. I would probably lean with the Chargers because of the coaching, because of Harbaugh. I think both teams are fairly even. I think both quarterback situations are fairly even right now, too. Neither team has a great offensive line. Both teams can run a little bit, though. A lot of really close games in the NFL this week. I would take the Chargers as the road favorite going into Arizona. And that will do it for this week's games. NFL pushing along. Yankees pushing along. Philly's gone. Knicks about to start. Rangers just started. Sports Apex is here, folks. Enjoy it while we got it. We got a few weeks of this, and then it'll strictly be the big three: football, basketball, and hockey. To all you Yankee fans, let's go Yankees. Let's go win this thing. The Battle for I-95 podcast has been brought to you by Easy Moving. Moving's hard enough. Do it the easy way. I am Turk. Hopefully next time, one of my partners can join and not leave me alone. I'm just a mess when I'm alone. Everybody have a good night.